Hello, friends. In the series of learning computer organization and design, today's topic is interconnection structures. Now, before beginning understanding this topic, let's understand its background. So, the background of the interconnection structure is basically depending upon one of the important aspect, which is nothing but the multiprocessors. Okay, or you could say that this interconnection structures topic is purely based on the terminology of the multiprocessors. So if you haven't attended the multiplexer sessions before, please go for it. The link for the multiprocessors is available in the description box. Otherwise, for your convenience, I'm just going to skim you about the multiprocessors here. So, in the multiprocessor systems, as we have already discussed in the previous session, that there are number of processors available within the electronic device. Okay, so and let us suppose these processors are P1, P2, P3, and so on up to Pn. So, n number of processors are available. Each and every processor is having the capability to work on a common memory system. So it is having a access to the common main memory, you could say that. So this is the entire architecture. Now what happens is that we can actually further refine this kind of architecture, which is leading me for understanding the interconnection structure. So what exactly the interconnection means here is interconnection, how the connection between these processors has been devised internally. That is the meaning of the term interconnection. How do one processor is able to communicate with this main memory in an efficient manner? So actually the point is that whenever this kind of architecture we need to implement within the electronic devices, the efficiency in terms of the hardware equipment should be achieved. So this is the reason why we are learning the interconnection structures, and that is why these are directly in linked with the multiprocessors computing. Now, I just want to further refine the concept of multiprocessors here, because we have already learned that there are two types of multiprocessors, being symmetric and asymmetric, right? So accordingly, what happens is that it might be the case that these different processors which are part of the computer machine, and this common memory is actually being divided or segmented into the small parts. Like this one memory has been segmented into the different parts so that every processor can get its own allocated memory, and it will be using its own memory. Okay, so this could be the another aspect in which these processors can be managed within the computer machine. So my point is that we can slice this memory, or we can distribute this memory among the processors as well, and all the processors can also have their own local memory, and they can also have their own individual allocated common memory also. It is not only the case that they are only going through this segmented memory. They can also refer to the another parts of the memory, but for that certain other procedures are needed to be done. So broadly the point is that these are the two types of interconnection, or you could say that the multiprocessors architectures that we have learned so far. And based on these two architectures, we are going to establish some interconnection structures. So now let's discuss about the interconnection structures. So here is the point. As I have already explained you, the components that form a multiprocessor systems are usually the CPU, IOPS, which are connected to the IO devices and the memory unit. So definitely we have learned that different kinds of processors exist between the computer machine, and they are also contributing in the memory unit, right? So these are the three essential, you could say that, the components to devise a multiprocessor system. Now the interconnection between these components can have a different physical configuration. So definitely, as I was explaining you in the previous slide, there were two different configurations explained to you guys. So based upon those parameters, we can derive a number of different configurations, and depending on the number of paths we are using to transfer the data, right? So between the processor and the memory, in a shared memory system, we need interconnection systems, right? And also, where are the other aspects where we are requiring such kind of interconnection systems? Whenever we are working among different processing elements. So again, these processing elements are nothing but the processors in a loosely coupled system. So we have also learned that the system architecture can be devised into two forms. One are the loosely coupled, one are the tightly coupled, right? So in the loosely coupled, we know that every processor is allocated its own unique memory element. So they know which is the memory element allocated to them, and they will restrict to those memory elements only. So means the point is that where we are using these kind of interconnection structures architecture, so these are the different possibilities where we will require these kind of interconnection structures. Now there are several physical forms available for establishing the interconnection structures, like one is the time shared common bus system, multi-port memory, crossbar switches, multi-stage switching network, and the hypercubes. So these are the various types of the interconnection systems available, but only the first three are included in our syllabus, so we will cover them in detail, and we will not look at the multi-stage and the hypercube, just because these are the advanced ones, and these are beyond the topic, you could say that. Okay, so let's start understanding about the time shared common bus system. So here is the first interconnection system, which is the time shared, or which is the older one also. So you can directly switch to this particular diagram to understand how this kind of architecture is working. So there is a common memory unit, right? And there are number of CPUs or IOPs which are attached within this particular memory unit. Now, what is happening in this kind of architecture is time shared. Each and every processor is allocated a fixed time to reference either the memory unit or to refer to any other processor. Okay, why so? Because there is only one single path through which the communication will happen. So that is why each and every processor is allocated a fixed time. And once the fixed time is allocated to any other one processor, the other processors will never interrupt the processor. Okay, so the common bus multiprocessor system consists of number of processors connected through a common path to a main memory unit, right? So this is what exactly the point is. Now only one processor can communicate with the memory at any given time. So this is the basic rule which the time shared common bus system is following. As a consequence, now what is happening here? If I am saying only one is allowed at a time, it means the waiting stage, the waiting period of accessing the resources is actually very large, right? So the total transfer rate within the system is limited by the speed of the single path. So this is the basic, you could say, that the drawback of such kind of systems. So how we can make it more economic? So we can simply do one thing. We can provide a local memory to these CPUs as well, because the ultimately it's not always the case that they are referring the main memory for getting the data. Sometimes if they are frequently accessing the data, if the processors are having their local memories allocated with them, then this problem of time share base bound time bound kind of communication link can be resolved. Okay, so this could be the one, you could say that parameter that we can use to avoid the more excess time, you could say that the transfer rate. So this is the first part. Let's go to the second part now, which is the multi-port memory. Now the problem of the time shared system was like there was a congestion in the traffic because there was only single path existing. So in the multi-port memory, we tried to eliminate the limitations of time shared. Okay, so how does it happens? So simply we are providing multiple ports to the memory unit. So what we did, first of all, we have segmented the main memory into the small modules, like here module 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now what happens, you can see that the CPU 1 is given a port for memory unit 1 to access the memory unit 2, 2, 3 and 4. Same is for all. So once the multiple ports are created, then this barrier that only one processor can communicate with the memory at a time, that has been reduced. So ultimately, the multi-port memory system employs separate buses between each memory module and the CPU. So the module must have the control logic. So definitely, this is the important aspect. This is the need of this structure. Every module must be having some internal control logic to determine which port will access the memory at which point of time, right? And the memory access conflicts are now definitely resolved here, because now we are providing the fixed priorities. CPU 1 is having the given a port that it can access to all the four values, similarly 2, 3 and 4. Otherwise also, which processor can talk to which kind of memory, we can assign certain priorities. Means certain mechanisms can be used to manage such kind of interconnection system in a much better way. So what advantage did we get from such kind of multi-port memory systems? Higher transfer rate. So this is ultimately a good thing which we have achieved here, because there are multiple paths being there. Now, what is the biggest limitation for this multi-port memory? Now, you can see that right now we are only using the four processors and only the four memory unit. The number of wirings or the cables, you could say that the hardware implementation cost, the hardware cost is actually increasing at a very rapid rate, right? And also it is making the structure very complex as the large number of cables we are using here. So it is just, you could say that by looking into the aspect or into the architecture, I can observe these two things. So definitely it is a very expensive control logic, memory control logic is required, and a large number of cables and connections are being used here. So this is the biggest drawback of the multi-port memory system. So let's now switch to the third part, which is the crossbar switch. Now crossbar is trying to reduce the limitations of the multi-port system. Okay, so what we were discussing in the multi-port, there was so much complexity being there in terms of providing the ports, right? So now what we did, we simply eliminated those cables and those complex connections with the crossbar switches. So these are the special kind of switches which will allow the transfer of you could say that the data by the processor between the memory modules using certain logics. So we are using the switches here, right? So it consists of the crossbars that are placed in the at the intersections between the processors and the memory module paths, right? Now the small square in each cross point is a switch that determines the path from the processor to the memory module. Let's suppose CPU 1 wants to communicate with the memory module 3. It will simply, this cross will allow, so if the message is intended for it, so it will allow the CPU 1 to communicate with the memory number 3. Okay. So what is the advantage we are getting from such kind of architecture? So it can support simultaneous transfer of all the memory modules. Let's suppose this memory module 3 is also to be processed by the CPU number 3. So this could also be allowed here because we are with the use of these switches. And what is the biggest drawback that this kind of architecture is having? So the hardware required to implement the switch can become quite large and complex. So definitely when I am saying that number of processors can actually visit the same memory module, so definitely the logics required, the hardwares involved, the complexity of the system, that will increase ultimately. So this is the figure which is showing the functional design of a crossbar switch which is connected to the one of the main memory unit. So these are the three basic interconnection systems that we have learned so far. So with this session is over, guys. Thank you so much for joining the session. Thank you.